Chapter 16 of The Plum and the Golden Vase. Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait. Simon King chooses an auspicious time and Earl Ying pursues the celebration. The poem says, "Don't trust the beautiful city and the country. The witches, water, witches and clouds are also crazy in dreams. The red-pink love sells the bones of the horse, but the golden orchid love sells the eyebrows. In the gentle country, the spirit is healthy, and the graceful mood is strange before the wind. The village does not know the silence of spring, so the rich man hesitates this night." It is said that on that day, when Simon King left the courtyard gate, Dian and his horse went to Li Pinger's house on Shizi Street. Seeing that the gate was closed, they knew that the guest had gone to his home in a sedan chair. Dian asked Feng's mother to open the door, and Simon King came in. Li Pinger is holding a candle in the hall. Her flower crown is neatly ranged. Her plain clothes are light, and she is leaning against the curtain in hope. Seeing Simon King coming, he hurriedly moved his steps, put on his xiang skirt, went downstairs to greet him, and said with a smile, "You should have come earlier. His third and fifth wives are still here, but they just got up. His aunt left early today, said you were not at home. Where have you been?" Simon King asked. "Brother Ying, Zizichan and I came over to see the lights in the morning. We didn't want to bump into two friends again, so we ran into them in the courtyard. We're late. I'm afraid you'll have to wait here. When the boy leaves, tell me to wash my hands and run away through the back door. Otherwise, they'll get caught and I won't be able to come." Li Pinger said, "Thank you for your courtesy." The ladies refused to sit down, saying that there was no one at home, so it was boring to teach the slaves. So they sifted the wine again, prepared the delicacies, lit the lanterns in the hall, and put down the curtains. The golden furnace is filled with animal charcoal, and the precious seal is burned with ambergris saliva. The woman passed the wine to Simon King. Kotodan said, "My humble husband has passed away and has no relatives. Today's cup of wine depends only on the official and the slave as the master. Don't think the slave is ugly. The slave is willing to be with the official. I make the bed and fold the quilt, and I am willing to be a sister with all the ladies. I don't know what the officer's heart is like." He shed tears as he spoke. Simon King took the wine with one hand and pulled him with the other. "Please get up. Since I have received your great love, I, Simon King, will bear it in my heart. When your filial piety is over, I will have my own place and won't bother you. Today is a good day for you. Let's have some wine every time." After Simon King finished eating, he poured a full glass of wine in return. After the woman finished eating, she sat down at the banquet. Mother Feng is in charge of the kitchen alone. After a while, "Take the noodles and eat them." Simon King asked, "Who are the two singing today?" Li Pinger said, "Today it is Dong Zhaoer and Han Chenchuaner. Before evening, I sent him to the homes of his third and fifth Niangs to beg for flowers." The two of them exchanged cups and drank at the banquet. Shu Chen and Ying Chun were serving wine and serving dishes. I saw Dian coming up and cowed out to Li Pinger to wish him a happy birthday. Li Pinger hurriedly stood up and returned the 10,000 blessings, and ordered Ying Chun to teach Chef Feng how to make longevity noodles and snacks, and then bring a pot of wine to eat with Dian. Simon King said, "Go home after breakfast." Li Pinger said, "When you get home, your mother will ask, 'Don't tell me that your father is here.'" Dan said, "You know, I just said that my father spent the night here. Just come and pick up Dad tomorrow morning." Simon King nodded and immediately said that Li Pinger didn't like him. "What a good boy, you speak in your eyes," and asked Ying Chun to give him 2 coins. He bought some melon seeds and ate them. "Bring me a sample tomorrow, and I will make a pair of good shoes for you." Na Dian quickly Kotodan said, "How dare you, little one, go out." Mother Feng closed the door and bolted it. Li Pinger had a meal with Simon Mei, and then took a pair of 32 ivory cards. The table was covered with strips of red thatch, and to wipe cards were used to drink. After eating once, he ordered candles to be held in the Yingchun room. It turns out that Hua Zixu is dead, and both Yingchun and Shu Chen have been tricked by Simon King, so he doesn't avoid anything and teaches him to make the bed and get a fruit box and a glass of wine. And in the purple brocade tent on the bed, the woman's pink body was exposed. Simon Qingxiang's shoulders were touching, and their jade bodies were touching. The two looked at the cards and drank with the big clock. because he asked Simon King, "When will the house over there be tidied up?" Simon King said, "When construction starts in February, even the one on your side will be open to be flush with the garden over there. A mountain shed will be built in front. There are 3 flower playing rooms built in the back." The woman pointed out, "There are 30 or 40 kilograms of agarwood, 200 kilograms of white wax, 2 jars of mercury, and 80 kilograms of pepper hidden in the tea box behind my bed. You will move out tomorrow and sell the money for me to build a house for you. If you don't think I am ugly, you can tell the aunt when you get home. I would like to be a sister with you, and you can ask me which one you want. No matter, my dear, I can't let you go." As he spoke, tears started to fall. Simon King hurriedly wiped the sweat towel and said, "I already know your affection. When your filial piety is fulfilled, I will build a house over there. Otherwise, if I marry you, I won't have a house." The woman said, "Since I have sincerely married into the slave's family, I will build the slave's house together with his 5th wife tomorrow. I can't let him go. He is such a good person." He and the 3rd wife of the Meng family behind me met the slave and became intimate with him. To people born in heaven, they don't dress like 2 sisters. They just look like they were born from the same mother. But his aunt is not good-natured and has a scornful look. Simon King said, "This little guy from the Wu family is here. You have a good nature. Otherwise, how can I accommodate these people? I will build a 3-room building for you to live in here tomorrow, with 2 corner doors for access. What do you think, brother? This is a slave to me." So the 2 fell in love with each other, and their lust was unbridled. I was so crazy that I just went to bed at the 4th watch. They slept side by side on the pillow and couldn't get up until dinner time the next day. The woman did not comb her hair. She brought porridge to welcome the spring. She only ate half a cup of porridge with Simon King. Then she brought wine and the 2 of them ate again. It turned out that Li Pinger was a good horse crawler and taught Simon King to sit on a pillow while he arranged flowers upside down and moved back and forth automatically. The 2 were in a beautiful place when they saw Diana knocking on the door and riding to pick them up. Simon King called him to ask him something under the window. Diane said, "There are 3 guests from Sichuan and Guangzhou sitting at home. There are a lot of fine goods that need to be exchanged with Uncle Fu. I only need 100 taels of silver to pledge the contract, and the money will be found around the middle of August." The aunt sent the younger one to invite Dad. "Go and take care of this matter." Simon King said, "You didn't say I was here." Diane said, "The younger one only said that Dad was at Aunt Gui's house, not here." Simon King said, "You don't know what's going on. The second uncle, the master, sent him away. So why did he come to invite me?" Diane said, "Uncle Fu told me, but the guest refused. And he waited until Dad left before he agreed to the contract." Li Pinger said, "Since it's the family's son who came to invite me, business is important. If you don't go, won't you offend the lady?" Simon King said, "You don't know. He is a thief and a slave. He goes to the market late and has no place to exchange the goods. If he comes to sell it quickly, he will give it to someone. Chongzhen, in addition to my big shop and large shipments in Qing County, I am not afraid that he will not come to find me." The woman said, "Business is not against the road. I just send you back when I get home. The days ahead will be like willow leaves." Simon King then followed Li Pinger's advice and got up slowly, combed his hair, washed his face, put on a net scarf, and put on clothes. Li Pinger packed up the meal and ate with him, while Simon King came home on horseback with a veil on. There were 4 or 5 customers in the shop, waiting to have their goods weighed and exchanged for silver. The contract was approved and sent away. Walking to Pan Jinlian's room, Jinlian asked, "Where did you go yesterday? Just tell me the truth, otherwise I will yell so loudly." Simon King said, "You are all having a drink at his house, and they and we walked around the lantern market and went in to have a drink and spend the night together. The young man came home just now to pick me up. I knew that the young man was there to pick me up. Is there any trace of you in the courtyard? Thief? You're so heartless. You're still coaxing me. That slut sent us here yesterday. And once she called you to do it. And she did it all night. And then she was released. Diane is a thief who has been in prison for a long time." He said the same thing to his aunt and the same thing to me. First, when he returned to Malay's house, his aunt asked him, "Why is your father not doing this? Come, "Whose house are you going to have a drink with?" He replied, "I came back from watching the lanterns with my second uncle, and they were all having a drink at Aunt Ligui's house in the courtyard. I asked him to pick me up in the morning." Smile without words. He asked anxiously, "So," he said, "Dad is at Hui Erniang's place on Lion Street." Damn it. How did he know that you and I were talking about the same thing? Presumably you asked him to come. Simon King said, "Where can I teach him?" So he couldn't hide it. So he told Li Pinger, "Invite me there in the evening, pass the wine to me, and say you guys are here." Then he cried and told me that he had no one, and the second half was empty. Wang Xi was afraid and wanted to teach me to marry him. Asked when the house would be cleaned up. He also has some fine goods of incense and candles, which are worth several hundred taels of silver. I can teach me how to be a broker and help him dispose of them. Teach me how to collect the money and use it to build a house, tighten the roof and repair it. He wants to live with you and become a sister to you, but I am afraid you will not agree. The woman said, "I don't have a shadow here. I wish I could come. My place is also empty, so I need him to keep me company." Since ancient times, if there are many boats, they will not hinder the harbor, and if there are many cars, they will not hinder the roads. I refuse to recruit him. How could he recruit me in the first place? How much does it cost to help a slave? I'm just afraid that people's hearts are not like slaves. Why don't you ask your eldest sister? Simon King said. Although it is true, his filial piety is not full. After saying that, the woman and Simon King took off their white silk jackets, and something slipped out of their sleeves. It was heavy and had big marbles. After looking at it for a long time, I didn't know what it was, but I saw, originally born in Fanbing. He was transferred to Beijing on the recommendation of someone. The body is small and exquisite. With the help of others, it turns like cicadas chirping. The solution makes the beautiful woman's heart tremble, and it can help strengthen the kidneys. Known as the golden-faced brave pioneer, he ranked first in the battle and became famous as Mayan Xiling. The woman recognized it for a long time and asked, "What is it? How come half of the man's arm is numb?" Simon King smiled and said, "You don't know about this object. It's called a Mayan bell. It comes from the country of Mayan Dayan in the south. The good ones are worth 4 or 5 taels of silver." The woman said, "Where can I get this?" Simon King said, "Put it in the furnace first, and then do it." The woman said, "You can do it. Are you going to do it with Li Pinger?" Simon King then told him what happened in the evening from the beginning. Jin Lian's lust suddenly roused after talking about it, so the two closed the door during the day, and dressed and went to bed to have sex. Exactly, I don't know why Zijin became an immortal just after he learned to play the flute. Stop talking nonsense. One day, Simon King met with his agent and weighed Li Pinger as fragrant wax and other items, and sold them for a total of 380 taels of silver. Li Pinger only left 180 taels of money, and gave the rest to Simon King to collect and build a house. Teach Yin and Yang to choose the 8th day of February to start construction. 500 taels of silver were entrusted to the family to recruit and supervise by sea, to unload bricks, wood, and stones, and to oversee the accounting. These forbidden men are called Ben Dichuan. They are young and full of energy and skills. Originally, he was born as Nai Xiang Kinner, but he was kicked out because he didn't keep his duty. At first, he followed someone as a brother. Then he joined an adult's family as a family member. He kidnapped someone's breasts and became his wife. But then he worked as a broker in an old clothing store, can play the pipa and flute. Seeing his ability, Simon King often took care of him, weighing goods in herbal medicine shop and asking for money. In this way, no matter how big or small, he cannot be left out. On the same day, Ben Si came to recruit and supervise the craftsmen to start the work. First, demolish the old house at Hua's house, open up the walls, build foundations, and build rolling sheds, pavilions, and places to play. It doesn't take just one day, so there's no need to explain it all. Time flies. The sun and the moon fly by. Simon King built the garden for more than a month, but it was early March, and it was only 100 days of flowers. Li Pinger invited Simon King in advance and discussed with him that Huazizuling should be burned. The house is for sale. If not, you have someone to guard it. You should have married the slave earlier. You can make the slave your own. Which one? I would like to help you make the bed and fold the quilt. As he spoke, he burst into tears. Simon King said, "Don't worry. I have told my servant and fifth sister Pan that I will wait until I finish building the house with you. By then your filial piety will be over, and it will not be too late to marry you." Li Ping'er said, "Since you are sincere in marrying a slave, you have already built the slave's house. If you marry a slave and live in your house for a day, you will be willing to die, so that the slave will not live here for a long time." Simon King said, "I understand what you said." Li Ping'er said, "If you don't, I will burn the soul and move to Wen Yang's place for 2 days. When you build a new house, it won't be too late to move. You can tell Wen Yang when you get home. I'm still waiting for you. This is the 10th day of the 3rd month, so I can recite sutras and burn my soul." Simon King agreed and rested with the woman all night. When I came home the next day, I told Pan Jinlian everything. Jinlian said, "It's good to know." Nuba couldn't help but make 2 rooms to live with him. "Why don't you ask eldest sister to go? I'm in a river that doesn't wash the boat." Simon King walked to Yunyang's room, and Yunyang was sitting there. "Comb your hair." Simon King told Li Ping'er about getting married from beginning to end. Yunyang said, "It's hard for you to marry him. The first thing is that he is not satisfied with his filial piety. The second thing is that you had a relationship with him as a man. The third thing is that you joined hands with his wife and bought his house. He kept a lot of things. As the saying goes, the machine is not as fast as the shuttle. I heard people say that if he makes some noise, it will cause lice on his head." What he said was good. Zhao Jin and Sun Li, "It's up to you, whether you want to or not." Simon King was speechless after saying a few words. Walking out of the front hall, he sat on a chair and muttered, "It's hard to reply to Li Ping'er, and it's hard not to go." After thinking for a long time, I entered the Golden Lotus room. Jin Lian asked, "What did eldest sister say?" Simon King told Yunyang's words. Jin Lian said, "That's what the eldest sister said. You bought his house, married his wife, and made friends with him as a man. You became friends with him, but you have no hair and no hair. You even look at Kiao when you are a high-ranking official." Simon King said, "That's all. I'm afraid that Hua Dao will not be able to jump through hoops. He only knows how to control his filial piety and dissatisfaction, so he can be a fool in the middle. How can we argue? I can't return his favor now." Jin Lian said, "Bah, what's the matter? Difficult matter. When you get there, you just say, 'When I get home, I tell Wu Niang that there are a lot of medicines piled upstairs. You guys have no place to store them. Please be more lenient. Your house is here. It's almost finished. So I'll ask the craftsmen to decorate and paint it soon. And your filial piety will be full. I'll marry you there, but it's not as complete as moving to Wen Yang's upstairs, where you can live in a non-vegetarian place. What a mess. Just take care of him." Simon King was overjoyed when he heard this. While waiting there, he walked to Li Ping'er's house. The woman then asked, "What do you mean?" Simon King said, "Wu Niang said, I'll wait for you to clean up and paint your new house. It won't be too late for you to move in. Now his upstairs is full of broken things." "Yes. Where do you go to store these things?" "There is one more thing to disturb you. I'm afraid that your eldest brother-in-law will say that you are dissatisfied with your filial piety." "What can I do?" The woman said, "Don't worry about your own clothes and food. The official divorce order has been broken down. It is up to my parents to marry first and myself to marry later. As the saying goes, my uncle cannot care about my secret affairs. No, if he farts, I will tell that thief to die sitting there. Don't worry, sir, he won't dare to mess with me." "Is it ready?" Simon King said, "I'm going to tell the craftsmen to build these 3 buildings for you first. When it comes to painting, it's time to finish the work." The woman said, "My brother, please tighten it up. I'd rather wait until then." After saying that, the maid put the wine on the table. They spent the night drinking happily. Since then, Simon King has not been here for 3 to 5 days, so there is no need to elaborate. Time flies, and Simon King's family has been building a house for 2 months. The 3 flower pavilions are almost finished, but the sheds have not been installed yet. One day, in May, the Reuben season, it was just every family puts mugwort leaves on the door, and every house hangs spirit talismans. Li Ping'er prepared a banquet and invited Simon King to come, one to unravel the zongzi, and the other to discuss the matter of marriage. On May 15th, monks were invited to chant sutras and burn spirits. And then Simon King chose a woman to marry. Simon King asked Li Pinger, on the day of burning spirits, "Will you invite Huada, Huasan, and Huasi?" The woman said, "I will send a letter to each of them, and it's up to him whether he comes or not." The plan was decided, and they just waited for May 15th. The woman invited 12 monks from Baoan Temple to chant sutras at home to exorcise spirits. Simon King sealed 3 silver coins as a favor and celebrated Ying Boju's birthday. In the morning, he gave 5 taels of silver to Dian and asked him to buy wine. In the evening, he and Li Pinger took off their mourning clothes. He asked Pingan and Huadong to follow the horses and go to Ying Boju's house round noon. At the banquet that day, Si Zida, Zhu Xinian, Sun Tianhua, Wu Dian, Yun Lishu, Chang Zhiji and Lianshan were all present. There were 10 friends at the meeting. Not one was missing. He also called 2 young actors to play and sing. After the wine was served and they sat down, Simon King called the 2 young actors and recognized the first one as Wu Yinera's brother, named Wu Hui. The one who didn't recognize him knelt down and said, "I am Zheng Xiangera's brother, named Zheng Feng." Simon King sat in the first seat and rewarded each of them 2 coins of silver. When the sun set, Diane came to pick him up with a horse and whispered to Simon King's ear, "Second mother, please go early." Simon King gave him a look and went downstairs. Ying Boju called him and asked, "Come here, you bastard, tell me the truth. If you don't, I'll turn your little ear aside. How many birthdays does your father have in a year? Why did you bring a horse here in the early morning? Who sent you here? Was it your mother at home who sent you here? Or was it the 18th son in the house? If you don't tell me, I won't tell your father in 100 years to find a wife for you, a little bald boy." Diane just said, "No one sent me here. I'm afraid it's late, and my father has to get up early, so I'll bring a horse to serve him." Ying Boju said to him, "If you don't tell me, I'll find out tomorrow and settle the score with you, a little slick-mouthed man." Then he poured another cup of wine, took half a plate of snacks, and went downstairs with Diane to eat. After a long time, Simon King came down to change his clothes. He asked Diane to a secluded place and asked him, "Who came to the Hua family today?" Diane said, "Hua-san went to the countryside. Huasi's family is ill, so no one came. Only the Hua family couple came." After a day of vegetarian meals, her husband went home first, leaving only his wife. Before leaving, second mother called her into the room and gave her 10 taels of silver and 2 sets of clothes. She also kowtowed to second mother. Simon King said, "Did he say anything?" Diane said, "He didn't dare to say a word. He just said that second mother would come tomorrow and he would come to visit my father on the 3rd day." Simon King said, "Did he really say that?" Diane said, "How dare I lie?" Simon King was delighted to hear this. He asked again, "Have you finished the vegetarian meal?" Diane said, "The monk left long ago and the tablet was burned." Second mother asked Dad to go earlier. Simon King said, "I know, you go and look after the horses." Diane was just about to leave when Ying Boju heard him in the corridor. He shouted and scared Diane. The count scolded, "You little thief. How could I have heard it if you didn't tell me? It turns out that your father and son did such a good job." Simon King said, "You are a weird dog. Don't tell me." The count said, "If you ask me to do it, I won't say anything." Then he walked to the table and told everyone about it. He pulled Simon King aside and said, "Brother, are you a grown-up man? If there is such a thing, why don't you tell us brothers? Even if Huada has something to say, you can just tell us and wait for us to tell him. We are not afraid that he will not agree. If he dares to say no, we will have a big grudge against him. I don't know if your marriage is successful or not. Tell us everything. What are you doing with your friends recently? If you have any orders to go, you would rather go with me. Brothers are waiting for you, but you are hiding it from us." Si Zida took over and said, "If you don't tell us, we will tell you tomorrow." Li Guiji and Wu Yiner, who were among the prostitutes, knew about it, and they all felt embarrassed. Simon King smiled and said, "I want to let everyone know that the marriage has been settled." Si Zida said, "Brother will marry his sister-in-law tomorrow, and we will go to congratulate him. Brother, please invite for singers to treat us to the wedding." Simon King said, "Of course, I will definitely invite you brothers." Zhu Shinian said, Instead of celebrating with you tomorrow, why don't we serve you a glass of wine and celebrate first? So he asked the earl to serve the wine, Zizida to hold the pot, Zhu Shinian to hold the dishes, and the others to kneel down. He also called the two little actors to kneel down and sing a set of 13 tunes Happy Encounter on an auspicious day, which made Simon King drink 3 or 4 cups of wine in a row. Zhu Shinian said, "Brother, when we were invited to a banquet that day, Zheng Feng and Wu Hua should not be left out. So they decided, you just should go." Zheng Feng covered his mouth and said, "We will definitely serve you." After a while, the wine was served and everyone returned to their seats. They ate again. Seeing that it was getting late, Simon King could not stay any longer. So he got up and left. Ying Boju wanted to block the door and Zizida said, "Second brother Ying, please let my brother go. Don't delay his business and make my sister-in-law angry." Simon King got his hand on the horse and laughed. When they arrived at Shizi Street, Li Pinger took off her mourning bun and changed into a gorgeous dress. The hall was brightly lit, and a table was prepared for a banquet, with only a chair on it for Simon King to sit on. The maid held the kettle, and Li Pinger filled a cup and handed it to her. She kowtowed 4 times and said, "The coffin has been burned today. I am grateful to the great master for not abandoning me. I am here to serve you with a towel and comb your hair to fulfill Yufei's wish." After performing the ceremony, she stood up. Simon King came down from the table, also handed the woman a cup before sitting down. So he asked, "What did Hua Da and his wife say today?" Li Pinger said, "After lunch, I asked him to come into the room and told him about the marriage of the master. He said yes without saying a word. He just said that he would ask his wife to come to our house in the next 3 days. I gave him 10 taels of silver and 2 sets of clothes, which the couple liked. Before leaving, he thanked me again and again." Simon King said, "Since he said so, it won't make a difference if I let him come to my house. But if he says anything, I won't let him go." Li Pinger said, "If he is hot-tempered, I won't let him go either." Then the silver-inlaid bell was filled with southern wine. Xu Chen poured it and served it, and Li Pinger drank a few cups with him. It is true that as age increases, feelings decrease, and wine increases with circumstances. As the day of her marriage was approaching, Li Pinger was happier than usual. A smile spread across her face, and she asked Simon King, "You were drinking at Ying's house just now, and I invited you. Didn't anyone over there know about it?" Simon King said. Ying Huazi guessed it, and forced the servant to say a few words, causing a mess. The brothers wanted to congratulate me, so they called the singers and hosted the party. They also gathered together to help and made me drink a few glasses. I was about to walk out in a hurry, but they tried to stop them and told them to let me go anyway. Li Pinger said, "It's fun that they let you go." Simon King looked at her drunkenness and her affectionate eyes, and for a moment he couldn't help being confused. The two of them were spitting cloves from their mouths. Their faces were like fairy almonds. Li Pinger hugged Simon King in her arms and cried, "My dear brother, if you really want to marry me, you can do it sooner. It's inconvenient for you to travel, so don't leave me here waiting for you day and night." After saying this, they turned over and over, tangled together. It was really like this, with deep affection, breasts pressed tightly together, arms gently wrapped around each other, tiredly looking at the silver mirror, hesitantly wondering if it was a dream.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.